Hey guys, welcome to the Late Show. This is your host, Lord Hellespont V, your favorite live streamer's favorite live streamer, Racing Art. You're very kind. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome everyone. We're live again tonight. We're gonna talk watches. I apologize for the delay. A little bit late in arriving home, so that made a little bit of a difference. But we are here. I think there's also something going on with my internet connection, so hopefully that won't interrupt us much tonight. But we're here to talk watches. We're here to celebrate also um, France's National Day, the Bastille Day. As you know, this was part of the French Revolution where the revolutionaries stormed the Bastille prison, so it's celebrated now as a national feast in France. And as is usually appropriate, I brought up someone who wears a nice watch, and in this case, it's the late French president Jacques Chirac, who used to wear again a very simple, humble Rolex Date, just stainless steel on its matching Jubilee bracelet. He would wear it when he was suited up and on official functions. You see the French flag behind him. He would also wear it more casually, when he is pretending that he's an American college student, I guess, wearing a polo shirt with what seems like a cotton cable knit sweater on his shoulders. And much later in life, I think just a few years before he passed away, he was still wearing his Rolex Datejust. It's very cool. Again, a guy, simple guy apparently, even though he was the president of the republic, had one nice watch and he wore it anywhere, all the time, and it rarely left his wrist until he passed. I was also just looking around on websites and on the inventories of dealers that sell vintage watches, and chanced upon a two-tone Daytona, which seems to be a decent deal. Again, without particularly endorsing the the dealer or the website. This is a place actually from Los Angeles. Want to buy a watch, and as it happens, last time I was there, they treated me like shit. But hey, no hard feelings. Um, they have an interesting watch, interesting deal on their website, so I'm gonna highlight it at any rate. This is so-called Zenith or Zenith Daytona pre 2000, when these Daytonas were still powered by caliber 4030, which is of course built on the base of a Zenith El Primero caliber 400. And again, this is one of those things because two-tone is somehow undesirable in general, and especially undesirable apparently in the Daytona market. And again, you got to understand this is not a top condition watch, right? Clearly has been polished before, um, not polished to bits, not polished beyond recognition, but still, it's not the cleanest example I have ever seen. But It has its original period correct bracelets. Everything is there. Everything is functional. It apparently has box and papers. I mean, clearly has the box, and as far as I can see, also the papers. I don't necessarily care about the full set shtick. You know this before, but if it's there, it's there. And hey, if you can talk them down to something around 20, this would be actually a great, great deal. And I just think there's something beautiful about a two-tone um, Daytona with a black dial, or even a precious metal Daytona with a black dial. Really, it must be the contrast between the gold bezel in this case and the dial, and of course the outer rings of the subdials as well. Dirk Diggler is here. Hey man, nice to see you. Um, MLMJ is here. Thomas Broadbent. Yeah, you're not at this moment. You're not getting any Daytonas for $15,000, but that would be a great deal. Let me know when you find a Daytona like that. Even I might be in the market. Um, Again, Daytonas are not really my shtick, but this is a nice watch, interesting piece. I think, again, you can certainly talk it down, but they're not gonna give it to you for $15,000. That's for sure. By the end of the year, they might. This one will have flown by then, but yeah, by the end of the year, who knows? But at this moment in time, no one's selling you Daytonas for $15,000. Um, but yeah, if you want a deal, at least we can say this, since we are also not highlighting any particular dealer, seller, or website. The bargain is still in the two-tone. The bargain is, in this case, 16523. So if you don't mind, quote unquote, neo vintage, if you don't mind a piece from 1990s, um, comparatively speaking, there's still some bargain hunting to be done. There's still some bargain shopping to be done. And this is one instance of that. In fact, since we are there, let's see how they're trending elsewhere. And whether there are better deals to be found. There's something in Japan for 18K. Doesn't necessarily look in better condition. Doesn't really come with papers or anything. There's something in the US with the champagne dial for, again, 18, since it's $500 shipping. It does look in good condition. Not necessarily perfect, but good enough. Again, no papers, no box, fully naked. Yeah, so that is the market. If you can find for $15,000, let me know as well, because I might want to buy one as well. You can get the dial for $5,000 apparently, so that could be that could be a project. But usually that particular dealer is extremely expensive, extremely overpriced. So I was surprised to see that it was already priced right around the market rate. Just shows you how, um, I'm not going to say desperate yet, but how um, ready dealers are at this time to make deals, right? So it might be an interesting time to strike a deal if you find the right watch at the right price, of course. Messaging Matters says there's something about a Rolex two-tone 40 millimeter that is just right. Yeah, I mean, look, Daytona is technically also a little smaller than 40 millimeter, but anything up to that, pre-ceramic, it's just nice. It's really nice. I was also kind of scouring Wind Vintage as well, Eric Wynn's website, mostly because I just saw he posted a Breitling navitimer 806 twin jet on his Instagram, but I guess it's not on the website yet. So I just followed that and saw some nice watches again without necessarily highlighting the price. He has some nice 1016s, which I think is really, one of the points of, pardon me, perfection in vintage Rolex watches. Something certainly worth owning in good condition if your collection skews toward vintage rather than contemporary. Of course, Eric Wind had sit down before with Hodinkee for their reference points, the Rolex Explorer, where he basically goes through every single major iteration of the model. And that was very informative. That was very helpful. Again, that particular series, I think, is one of the things that still makes Hodinkee worth it in a way, because everything else kind of bleeds into advertorial for brands they sell as authorized dealers in their own store, for watches that they have pre-owned through Crown and Caliber and other sources, and also a number of LVMH brands. LVMH, of course, having a $40 million stake in Hodinkee. So, but at least there's still stuff like reference points. There's still, hey, Hodinkee with Jack Forster. There's still people like Jack Forster and Eric Wind once every so often contributing to the platform. So it's still worth one's time. Again, I'm never too hot with smooth bezels on Rolex watches. I need something to fidget with. Either I need something to fidget with, something rotational, or I need something fluted. But 1016, the Explorer is so iconic that it really doesn't need anything more than that 369 dial. It's just perfect. Junior Johnson, man. Hey, how are you doing, man? Welcome. I like the funniest thing is when trolls take on like human names and they try to keep a conversation going on their own by themselves, and they get frustrated after a while and say something, they'll get them kicked out. But let's, let's keep it going. Let's pretend that we're not aware of their existence. Again, a beautiful 5513 meters first. Absolutely stunning. Probably not the right watch for those who have OCD and who will complain about not having matching patina on the dial and on the hands. Um, Stay away from people who obsess over those things. They clearly don't know what vintage watches are, what was going on in the 60s, um, where the hands were coming from, where the dials were coming from. They clearly have no idea. Obviously, all these were sourced from different parts makers who were specialized in that particular line of work, in that particular line of production. Um, so ultimately, even when the same material is being used, namely tritium, as is the case here, all these different makers had their own mix of that material, right? So it's quite, it's very much expected, in fact, that there is going to be a difference, some variation between how the luminous material on the dial will age as opposed to how the luminous material in on the hands will age, since they are literally different mixes. But again, this is one of the points of pure simplicity and beauty. Of course, a lot of people like the crown guard look, those initial references all the way up to the so-called, big crown or small crown submariners. They're quite beautiful as well, but there's something very simple and very stunning about the all black look of a 1016 or 5513, of a four-digit Explorer and of a four-digit um, Submariner as well. I think one of the dealers actually in Asia had basically the Explorer dial 5513 come in very recently, the vintage concept. I know there are people in the community who have done business with them before. I have not, so I can't really say anything good or bad. Um, they're based in Hong Kong, but they have something like this, which is extremely rare. 5513, a Rolex Submariner with a gilt dial and a 369 configuration on the quarters, which, of course, we simply came to call an Explorer dial. It's kind of the best of both worlds, right? You get the look of two iconic Rolex watches, two iconic tool watches combined neatly in one single package. Yeah, right. It looks almost serrated. Um, Certainly, the aesthetic of it, I think, looks really sharp. Except, of course, yeah, this is even better condition. Of course, again, it might not satisfy some of the more modern enthusiasts of dive watches, because this bezel obviously has a bidirectional smooth turn rather than the clicking turn that we have become accustomed to in modern divers, right? Everyone obsesses over that 120 click bezel. So this is in just stellar condition, right? Hence the pricing again. But if you look at the case, hard to find much of anything like this. Again, this is pre 1968. I don't know the exact um, year, of course. I haven't seen the serial number or anything, but just amazing, amazing. And again, it is no coincidence, of course, because Eric Wind again had sat down previously with Hodinkee to produce the reference points on the Rolex Submariner as well. So I guess if you are going to trust one person to get things right in this world about this particular reference, it's that. Um, this is, of course, more in a dreamscape than reality in terms of pricing, the way things have gone. Um, but the penultimate reference of the Royal Oak Jumbo Extra Thin 15202 BA, so in yellow gold, with AP at 6 o'clock, just two hands, no seconds hand. And again, very, very beautiful piece. I think in that monochromatic look. Wonderful tapisserie dial. I think, the classic color of midnight blue is, of course, amazing, but you can't really complain about this in a yellow gold watch either. Interesting that it says seldomly worn, but I guess it shows you how it's it's basically a chocolate bar on your wrist, right? The clasp is already scratched like mad for a 4-year-old watch that is supposedly seldomly worn. Incredible. Yeah, yeah, it is insane, Thomas. It is insane how the market has gone. It's they're just unobtainable in steel or in precious metal. Messaging Matter says, I want to kiss it or bite a meal. Yeah. Look, I mean, 4-digit Rolex is like that. You either love it or hate it. It's the kind of Rolex vintage is something that inspires very strong feelings. You either fall in love with it or you feel obliged to talk shit about it. Um, there's no there's no middle way. Peeping Time says Steinhardt makes an homage with applied indices for like 700. Amazing. I mean, if that's what you want. Yeah, Peeping Time, which model for the homage? I'd like to take a look on the website for curiosities, sake. And it says Steinhardt Ocean 39 Premium. Hey, we can take a look at that as well right here. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. I guess they must have received along the line some cease and desist letter because this this looks more like a combination of a modern submariner and a modern explorer than an homage of a explorer dial um, vintage sub. But in either case, it's an interesting concept. The only thing I genuinely don't like about it is the exhibition case back. Um, Other than that, Steinhardt has more or less carved a niche in making, higher quality homage watches, and they have a certain, corner of that market that they made their own. Yeah, it looks like a nice watch for the price, but it looks and feels nothing like a 4-digit Submariner. I can tell you that even from the pictures. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe you just want something that is more modern, obviously more affordable, and possibly more robust on your wrist. Yeah, this is it. I mean, there's just something very awe-inspiring about the texture of the style, which, from far looks quite simple, actually. Right? You can even from a distance, you can um, feel the difference between this sort of pantograph carved, quote unquote, tapisserie dial and waffle dial that is otherwise executed. But when you zoom in, of course, you see how much of that texture actually reflects on a minute scale. This is one of those rarer examples of early Breitling navitimers made for AOPA. As you see, there is actually no Breitling logo or even writing on the dial. It's just the American, um, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association logo, the open book logo, syringe hands, and at that time, instead of the Venus 178 movement, which kind of became the run-of-the-mill caliber that powered the navitimer. It was Vaju 702 for the very early references of the navitimer. Syringe hands, again, no Breitling writing or logo. The beaded bezel for the slide ruler, slide rule, I should say, rather than the later serrated version. And the dial, the hands, everything shows its age quite, so you have to really appreciate a watch like this to plonk down so much money, and so much more premium as well, for just having the Vaju caliber inside, because the the ones with Venus are basically a fraction of this price. The later examples of the same reference from the 60s are really in another league. There's also a reference 809, which they recently revived, the Cosmonaut, the 24-hour dial navitimer that Scott Carpenter specifically ordered for the Mercury Atlas 7 mission. And of course, his notion was that he was going to be in space, so he needed a dial that would actually tell him the difference between day and night, since there was no other indicator. So he needed a 24-hour dial. And of course, inside the case back, you have the markings of Breitling. You can see the Vaju 72. I'm sure it feels divine to wind it. There's something quite amazing about manual chronograph movements from this time period, especially. But even now, even the ones that are produced now, and there's some interesting news that I'm gonna tend to just in a little while. So this is the reproduction, by the way, of that watch, of the Cosmonaut, the 24-hour dial. They basically use a platinum bezel in this case. Trying to see if they must have some, yes. And they have the BO2 caliber in this case. But this is the original. This is the OG. And there's also a 5512 that he has in stock. Again, I think it's important to check the inventory, the stock of some of the more respected vintage dealers once every so often, just to educate yourself. Disregard the price. Don't get distracted by the oscillations, by by the trends of the market. You want to learn about particular models. You want to learn about particular brands, what to look for in desirable examples, in examples that can actually be priced at this level. That's very important, um, and it's always a learning experience. And this is the 5512, which was a concurrent reference with the 5513, um, with the main difference being the calibers of these watches were actually COSC certified, so chronometer certified, and this was reflected on the dial as well, which gives it 4 lines of writing. So there's a reason that makes them more desirable, right? They retailed for more, right? You can make the same joke, I guess, that people usually make about no date submariners. If you had even less money, if you couldn't even afford a 5512, you go for a 5513, which was even cheaper at the time. Of course, 5512 was the one that Steve McQueen was most often pictured with. So there's that additional charm, although Steve McQueen also owned a number of 5513s, one of which was inherited by his son, Chad McQueen, and some others that he gave away, and I think some that were auctioned off as well. And one of the interesting thing is both the previous 5513 we have seen and this particular example actually had their crystals replaced. I'm assuming the previous crystal was probably cracked, possibly broken, at least had some sort of, at least a hairline crack that somehow compromised the integrity of the case, that made it not waterproof, not dustproof. And I actually commend Eric Wind um, in doing this because, to me, again, originality, authenticity when it comes to vintage watches always comes first. But when it comes to something like the crystal, you want something period correct if possible, of course. But in the absence of that, your priority is, of course, securing that watch, making sure that watch makes it to the next generation, making sure that you can preserve that watch for posterity. So rather than being a purist and keeping it with a cracked crystal or something just because that's the original, here they went with a True Dome D19, which is basically a replica of those period correct domed or super domed, in fact, um, acrylic crystals, and they do the job pretty well aesthetically. And of course, f- from a utilitarian perspective, they probably provide as good of a seal as anything, um, as the vintage acrylic crystals, and as certainly the modern sapphires as well. Big Wheel says sacrificing his nights out with the ladies for us. I'm I usually don't go out on Thursday nights anyways. Watch enthusiast says Lord is putting me to sleep. This channel is obviously losing stream, I'm afraid. Hey, watch enthusiast. I think I would care more about your opinion if you just knew how to spell. But I think you're meant to say losing steam. But I have lots of steam coming out in all the different parts of my body, and I'll be happy to bless it. Again, take a more human name. Take names that you may or may not spell. Um, I remember you came into this also as Patek connoisseur without knowing how to spell connoisseur. Try harder, be better, educate yourself. Come back in 5 years. Maybe you'll be ready to deal with someone like me. Pauli says the CNC video was funny AF. Dirk has a channel. Let me know, man. Drop in the name. I don't think you can send in the link, Dirk, but drop in the name, please. I'd love to buy a vintage piece, but I don't have the confidence. Yeah, Bruce, you either have to educate yourself thoroughly, and it can't be only done with reading. It can't even only be done by going out there and handling watches. You need a mentor, you need a guide, um, you need someone, quote unquote, to hold your hand at some level, right? You need someone to educate you. Of course, this is particularly a platform for that. I am a big advocate for vintage watches. uh, you A lot of times the reason that some of the best dealers in the business, the ones who still have a solid reputation, price their items at that highest level, at that level of absolute premium, is because of that. There's one, they're saving you time. Two, after waves and waves of scandals, waves and waves of vintage dealers tricking each other, tricking their customers, there are not many left at this point that you can trust fully. Again, I would say, as my life philosophy, you don't trust anyone fully. You trust everyone conditionally, right? You do your own homework, you educate yourself, about that model, you you educate yourself about that particular dealer, the long-term history of his dealings, the long-term, the short-term, the recent history of their dealings, all sorts of things. But there are still dealers that you can trust, and I do think that Eric Wind is one of them. Right? Again, I'm not in the business of um, necessarily recommending or vouchsafing or providing reference for anyone in the business. But vintage dealers, I have more sympathy for them. Genuine vintage experts, like Alex Ciani, like Davide Parmigiani, like Eric Wind. Um, who else is there? The guy who operates Wire Lug out of Virginia. I forget his name, but there's still a handful really, dealers that you can trust. So if you find the right model uh, in their inventory and it's somehow in your budget, maybe you can negotiate a deal. But when you pay premium in vintage, that's why you're paying it for, Bruce, because you can't trust everyone. You can't just buy a vintage watch from anyone unless you are getting unless you're getting it for a song, unless you're getting a model for scrap value. PJ, hey man, nice to see you here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Speedmaster says, was the CNC video made by Dirk? What is that? What is that video? I want to know now. And PJ, hey, Thank you for coming here, Jimmy. Upvotes. Hey, man. The haters are okay. They're here. I like antagonizing them once every so often. Once every so often, I have my right of response, and let me slap them around. I don't mind it. I was working at the time. Usually, I just listen while working, but started watching, and I was laughing so hard. It was on AC3. You made a video for AC3. That's amazing. Aussie is starting a live stream. Hey, by all means, man. It's a free world. It's a free world. Did the trolls come over after another stream ended? Usually, but there's no problem. Yeah, I mean, Aussie is great. He's always welcome here, but he wants to do his own thing. He's more than welcome to do that as well. And that video was made by Plastic for AC3. Thanks for clarifying. Dirk Diggler says, "Do you have a guy in LA that you would recommend for vintage for fair prices? You don't have to give names here." Um, yeah, I have a couple. I have a couple. And it depends on what you mean with vintage. If you would go with something from the 90s, I certainly have a couple, right? If you're looking for something as quote unquote simple as a 5-digit Rolex, for example, I can recommend you a handful. Going a little further back, something before 84, 85, something that already goes back into 4-digit references. Um, that's a smaller group of people, but I still know a few. Whether you would consider their prices fair prices, that's another question. But hey, it's it is what it is. Dirk says, "No, not me." Yeah, it apparently was Plastic. And Big Wheel says, "Haters gonna hate." Yeah, haters gonna hate. Lovers gonna love, and I'm gonna hate the haters as well. It's only right. It is only right. I'm not one of those people who gets high and mighty and say things like, "I have no hate in my heart." I have lots of hate in my heart for people who deserve it. So if they're gonna come at me, I'm gonna lash back out at them. It is only right. But look at the beautiful, beautiful chamfers on that case, and just the distortion from that angle. They really got things right with this True Dome project. Um, I think they have a website of their own. Yeah, it's just truedome.com. Right. They have the D19, which is, I think, less pronounced. Um, I have currently, I have basically the vintage, the original version of this on my 5513. And there's also D36, 39, which was T39, of course, in Rolex terminology. And I had secured one of these a while ago. So next time my 5513 goes into service, I think I'm gonna get it upgraded. The D39s are actually not T39 or D39s are technically not correct for submariners. Those were the Superdome acrylic crystals that were used for sea dwellers at the time, right? Um, but a lot of people have put these on their submariners and even on their 4-digit GMTs, and it's a very cool look. I mean, there's something very sexy about plexi, there's something very charming about the acrylic crystal and the kind of distortion it generates. And these people have been basically working on this project for years before they came up with these reliable examples. Yeah, the world's first reverse engineered superdome. It began as a passion project. The goal was to create a crystal that would remain true to the original Tropic 19 superdome. And later they produced the Tropic 39 superdome too, as you have seen on that page. T19 Superdome, as collectors have come to call it, is an essential component of vintage submariner aesthetic. Unfortunately, its production was discontinued in the early 1980s. Pardon me, and it was replaced by a flatter variant. And we have talked about something similar on this platform before, right? There are people who specialize in parts, and a lot of times they hoard those vintage parts, vintage Rolex parts especially, and they charge exorbitant amounts for them. So for someone to actually um, do something like this, someone actually to realize a project like this, I think it's really amazing. No corners have been cut in the manufacturing process. True Dome utilizes high strength and optically clear acrylic that is manufactured in Switzerland, press molded in Germany, and finished in the United States. Yeah, so they now have the D19, the Superdome 250, D39 Superdome 300. This is, as they say, proper crystal for 4-digit sea dwellers that have also been installed on submariners, but we do not recommend this, they say. And obviously, they're talking about their own product, not the original acrylic. They have a True Dome crystal that also fits the 4-digit GMT references as well as 5-digit GMT references. Of course, you are getting rid of the Cyclops by doing anything like this. And this, of course, is for the Explorer. Yeah, this is very nice. And they have, of course, examples of watches with those crystals installed. And they all look amazing. And in a certain sense, again, the modern versions might be even these modern reproductions might be even more secure because at the end of the day, you'll probably pay multiple times these amounts for the proper OEM crystals if you can find them, right? Those are even harder. That really is a minefield. You know what people say about vintage watches? It's a minefield. To source like the proper crystal for your vintage watch that is period correct, that is a minefield because people have low quality reproductions. People have stuff that they have taken out of a watch that's already compromised, that's already broken, uh, that already has at least a hairline crack or two. So in and acrylic, of course, as it ages, even on its own, even if it is just kept on a shelf, can actually develop um, some damage and at least become more brittle. So I'm glad someone attended to this problem. Let's see who else has. Who's my neutral? Aussie cannot, again, guys, let's settle this terminology. Aussie can do whatever he wants. He's my friend, just like Watch Nicholas is my friend. They're not my OG. I'm not their OG. They can stream at the same time as I do. That's not rebel streaming. Rebel streaming is when people stream against Archie, who is the person who opened this space for all of us. He is the alpha and omega. That's it. You know, you don't rebel stream against him. Um, Anything else, that's not rebel streaming. But yeah, Ozzy is welcome to do whatever he wants. Ozzy is also welcome to jump on this stream whenever he wants. And the link is pinned already. When I get time, I will watch the video from AC3. Yeah, I mean, look, Plastic is a great talent. I think he should. I wish he had more time to spend on these streams, but he's just busy and he's a family man. So usually that's where his time is dedicated, and I respect that. If I did a review of my collection, I should do a state of the collection, but I think I might have a surprise for next week. So I guess that's I should wait until next week to talk about the state of my collection and where to go from there as well. But John, thank you for asking. I always get flattered that people care about my collection. Most of what is in my collection, you can see it in the shorts. Um, and a few earlier live streams, of course. But I should do something that is more like a 15 minutes thing, maybe, and squeeze in everything there so it can be one video that people can watch. And yeah, I do have it in older videos. I have it in the wrist rolls, but I guess it's time for an update, and I will do it next week, and maybe I'll try to do it um, in some sort of rehearsed fashion so I can actually talk about it in 15 minutes um, rather than something too long that people won't watch and won't be able to find. Full on John says, you inspired me to wear a diver on leather for the first time. Leather. And I insist on leather quite a bit. And you sent an email to me about it. Thank you, man. I will take a look at that. Um, Look, I mean, if you're taking it actually to dive, that probably is not the time to wear it on leather. But beyond that, of course you can. I mean, I never understood why people get so enraged when you wear your desk diver on on a leather band. This looks cool. Yeah, I love that dial, by the way, that burgundy. Looks amazing, man. Yeah, it's just a different feel, right? I don't wear mine on leather all the time. I also don't wear it on the riveted bracelet all the time. I love wearing it on my worn out NATO strap um, more and more. Once these things get softer, it's just an incredible pleasure, and that particular shade of gray just just fits vintage sub. So I just like changing things up, and of course, for something as plain as a two-liner no date sub, the the matching leather strap has to be in the arsenal somehow. But this is a great look for the Orient as well. Retired Army vet. Hey man, thank you for your service and welcome to the channel. What is my opinion on the Breguet Tradition? I'm a huge fan of Breguet as a brand. Uh, I actually adore their dress watches. They don't necessarily wear all that well on my wrist. Um, and the reason is simple. I have a very skinny wrist, and this particular aesthetic of extended lugs, which is again part of Breguet's design language, right? Because we were talking about Beauvais um, recently, which is celebrating a big anniversary this year, of course. Um, it's their 200th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. Um, but Beauvais, of course, has that same heritage as Breguet, uh, that begun in making very classical, distinguished pocket watches. And Breguet too always, uh, even when they make wristwatches, the design codes, the aesthetic codes, the design language is still there. And I love all the dress watches that they make actually, from from the extended lugs to the fluted um, flanks of the case, that coined edge, as people sometimes also call it, um, the guilloche on the dial, the asymmetric aesthetic that a lot of the classique collection presents. The tradition too, I really like. This particular model, 1797, is something that I really enjoy. I think JJ has one of these. I think it's a beautiful watch. It has this steampunk aesthetic, um, that's at once very classical and retro, but also kind of industrial and modernist because of the exposed dial. And I find this a little more tasteful than the usual skeletonized slash open worked aesthetic, because essentially you have just a smaller dial and then the rest is simply exposed. Um, and of course, having the retrograde seconds, pardon me, that's not, that's a lot of fun too. That's not nothing to sneeze at. So a little bit of a horological party trick on the dial as well, in addition to the exposure of the mechanics of the caliber. And I like this a little more in the pink gold version. In the white gold, it looks a little naked, uh, which is not necessarily a problem. Maybe that's exactly what you are looking for in a watch like this, because ultimately uh, the monochromatic look is great too. But I like the entire Tradition line. But I know for a fact that the 1797 uh, provides a very good entry point to it. And that's the nice thing about Breguet for collectors, right? Value depreciation might be a concern if you go into the boutique, if you go into Tourbillon, or um, if you go, buy from an authorized dealer. If you buy new, that might be a concern. But for those of us who do deals on the secondary market all the time, it's not a problem. It's in fact something that helps us collectors to gain a foothold in brands that we might not be able to afford at retail. Mike David, hey man, uh, welcome. I I haven't been able to watch Nicholas yet. I would say don't don't worry for now. I'm sure he has everything under control, and whatever happens, he has an ally here. He has a platform here. He's always welcome here. Um, but I'm sure it will be under control pretty soon. I'm trying to stay optimistic. Mike David, welcome to the channel. And Ozzy says, I didn't stream anyway. It was a video I recorded in the morning. Um, Ozzy, again, it wouldn't be a problem. I know they're trying to stir some shit, and I want to explain so other people don't get the wrong idea, right? So other people know where I stand. People can stream at the same time as I do anyway, because I provide something different. Better, worse, it's going to be different because it's my show. That's it's never going to be a problem. PJ says, any word from Watch Nicholas? I haven't yet received word from Watch Nicholas. MLMJ says, I love plastic. We love Reverend Plastic. Oh, and the baby isn't sleeping, so much noise. I don't mind the noise, but Ozzy, I understand. And Full On John says about his newly found love for the Orient Kamatsu on the leather strap. I prefer it to the bracelet now, honestly. And retired army vet, already with a different avatar. That's fascinating. Again, thank you for your service. What is my opinion on independent watch brands? You'll have to specify that question. RAV. That's a very broad category. Are we talking about, the independents like FP Jean, Philippe Dufort, De Bethune, Laurent Ferrier, the brands that uh, indulge in high horology? Or are we talking about the micro brands, that have their beginnings in Kickstarter and are taking a little more of a different spin, maybe like Undone, maybe like Baltic, um, others that have been resuscitated. Um, so you have to specify. You have to specify. And Full On John says, love the red strap on your Explorer as well. Um, I do love it. I know it's a little obnoxious. I know it's a little bit of what is the Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. I know it's a little bit of that, but it's just I've gotten all these different colored straps. I got the electric blue or cobalt blue for the reverso. I got the although it's not on that today, it's just on its original brown strap. Um, I got something, textured calf leather that I use for my root beer. I have a textured gray that I use for my date just, and I have for now kept that elephant gray, kind of a brown gray uh, strap for my sub for now. I have something more gray, like a gunmetal gray on order that's going to come in at some point. So that's going to probably free up the textured leather, and I might actually use it once every so often on my Jeju Reverso. But yeah, so I had to choose something different for the Explorer. I absolutely didn't want something white, um, because that's just too much, and I just don't think white is a good color for leather in general. It can be fun for, say, rubber. It can be even interesting for some NATO straps, even, in an off-white color scheme. So finally, I decided to go with something red that would um, play off the GMT hand. And that was a little too obvious, perhaps, but I think it just fits. And I just wanted to have something different. When I have all my Rolexes on leather straps, I wanted something different for each one. And Pauli says he must be busy. Yeah, he was on this show just yesterday. I think maybe he's just doing a little bit of a blackout. High-end independent brands specifically. Hey, maybe you can still be more specific, but as I just mentioned, all those brands I mentioned, FP Jean, Laurent Ferrier, Philippe Dufort, I don't know, you can say Urban Jorgensen, Kari Voutilainen, you can say Lang and Heine. There's so much that is out there, but I like them. I find them way over what I would like to spend on a single watch by and large. There's still there's still great deals in the secondary market for some. Um, but yeah, ultimately I think they're very exclusive, limited production. So I guess that has something to do with the pricing. And ultimately they traffic in exclusivity. So some of it just that premium for exclusivity. So anyway, yeah. PJ says I talked to him at 6, just marketing genius. I hope so. Alain Silberstein. I'm not very familiar with that brand. GB, let's bring it up. Let's pull it up. Yeah, are we talking about the guy who collaborates with Louis Erard? Mm, interesting. Let me see. Is this what we are talking about, GB? I mean, it's very different. I don't actually mind the case design. I like the cutouts. Once every so often, someone has to do something different. Um, Not hugely impressed with what they did here, which is a way of hiding um, minuscule size caliber, which doesn't belong to this case. But other than that, at least they're doing something different. At least they're doing something original, something that is authentic. Um, I like the case. I absolutely despise the dial, but that's just me. There's a smile on the dial, so that's something to be commended, I guess. Um, it's basically an ETA clone Celita in it, SW221. Fair enough. I mean, it depends on the price point, and it has a smiley on the dial. I like it. That's a cute little idea, right here. Probably it has a frown on Mondays and Wednesdays, hump day, Monday. 4,000 Swiss francs. God damn. Ah, yeah, no, I mean, not paying 4,000 Swiss francs for a gimmick like that. Not only that, yeah. Yeah, send me some model names, GB, from Alan Zieberstein Designs. Yeah, angry face or frown on Monday mornings, I think would be entirely appropriate. Do I have a preferred microbrand? I actually like I came to like Baltic quite a bit. Um, from far, I like I like the designs of Undone, which is actually something that is put into work by Michael Young out of Hong Kong. As you guys know, he's a vintage dealer himself. He does a lot of repair work based in Hong Kong. He also does these wonderful bracelet restorations for Rolex watches, Rolex bracelets. Um, so I like some of the undone designs. The Type 20 design they have. I really like that. And I actually like the sterile aesthetic that that particular model has. Let's see the chronograph. They must still have these models. Bambi. I like this aesthetic. I haven't bought one, but you all know how much I like Type 20s, both in vintage and in recent reproduction by Breguet as well. I like these. I especially love the onion crown. Again, aesthetically speaking, I kind of like Unimatic. Um, these ones especially, kind of a very simple aesthetic. They're not that cheap with the when they're delivered with the Salida movement. But I like their Modello Due. And I'll send you guys the link. We did a live stream where we discussed options under $1,000. So that was mostly focused on independent brands, even though we brought up some um, examples of what you can get in the mainstream. But yeah, let me pull up that episode. So you guys can look through and maybe take a look at some of my opinions on the independents. Mm, strange. What happened to that video? All right, I can't find it. That's very strange. I'll dig it up at some point, but let's not waste too much time just doing that. Alan Silberstein, Chrono, Club Media. I'll pull those up. Joy Spinelli. What's my opinion on vintage Speedmasters? Love them. Love them. I think, again, you have to be either very careful, very studious, take your time, or make certain compromises. One thing that you constantly see with vintage Speedmasters, and you don't have to go all that far, already from the 80s, a lot of them will have the original dial, and I think they absolutely should. Um, but changed, service replaced hands have somehow become part of course. Um, and they're a little more brittle, I think, than the average Rolex from the same period when it comes to those handsets. So you have to study, you have to find out what you like. If you want to find something that is pristine and with all original parts, both on the face of the watch and the movement, um, you will have to pay the premium. But honestly, I would much rather go with a vintage Omega Speedmaster than anything from the current lineup. Even though I'm always a fan of the Moon watch, whether we're talking about the Hasselite Crystal or the Sapphire Sandwich, I like them both. Um, let's see, Alan Silberstein Chrono. Let's take a look at that. By the way, guys, we have almost gone for an hour and a half by now. So if you have been enjoying the show, if you have been learning from it, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. It's always wonderful to welcome new people to the community where we learn together, where we learn from each other, where we put knowledge first, knowledge above everything, and where we prioritize watch talk above all. So if you like this sort of content, where I'm here every day, uh, day in, day out, just with watch talk, about 4 hours at a time, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. Please do subscribe, share the link, spread the word, talk about the channel on other platforms, tell all your friends. Ultimately, of course, in the first place, as the first step, I want to get to 1,000 subscribers so I can get the channel monetized, so I can get something in return of the time and work I put onto this channel. Um, with that being said, there are already a few different ways where you can contribute, where you can um, help keep this channel self-sustaining, completely independent. not beholden to any uh, industry interests, not beholden to any of the gray market sellers or anyone else, uh, to really remain a platform that is oriented, that's guided, that's led by its audience, which this channel is. You can already contribute in three different ways. I have my PayPal accounts. That's lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. Also my primary point of contact. So that's a very good way to reach me if you want something very specific, that can be some guidance on a purchase that you would like to make next. If you want me to delve into the different versions, iterations of a particular model, of a specific reference, I can do that for you. If you want me to produce some other kind of content, maybe the history of a brand that is important to you, that you want to learn more about, um, maybe I can do a video sharing stories of a particular model or genre of a watch that you're interested in. I would happily do that too. Or I can do a collection review for you where you jump on as well, and we do it in the form of an interview where we get to learn more about you through your watches and about your life and about your style. And that's a format that I really really enjoy. So let me share some work I did in that genre before. Um, and of course, I also have a Cash App, which is $LHVVV, $LHVVV. And I have also recently instituted Patreon accounts, which is which with enough contributions will allow me to have additional live streams at least twice a week, um, so I can reach an audience based in the UK, based more on continental Europe, and also on certain parts of the East Coast, of course, for whom this late show is sometimes a little too late. Um, but yeah, Joy, let me know, by the way, if you're looking into a particular uh, particular range. Maybe you're looking for something pre-moon. Maybe you're looking for something more specific. There are different case shapes as well. There's the Mark II, there's the Teutonic. Um, Maybe you're looking for something like a birth year. So we can have a quick run. But yes, we were in the meantime looking for uh, Silberstein. uh, this is again some of the signature elements that he used in that Louis Erard watch. These are a little too fun for me, GB. Um, it's not really my thing, but I'm guessing this is also a kind of triple date, is it? The date on the chapter ring, and you have a kind of moon phase. Of course, 12-hour totalizer here, 30-minute totalizer there. This is day-night indicator, I guess. Maybe like a second time zone even. And you have that smiley face again, which is cute. I mean, I like that he has a signature like that. Um, Club Media 250. Let's see. Let's see if we can find an example of that. This was his chrono. Hmm. Honestly, you said when you said unique to say the least, I was expecting this one to be the most confusing, but this is at least easier to read. Although, again, the fact that he did the indices as a script, as like a continuous script, um, makes it a little strange. This is a nice three-hander. Why not? For someone who has a very quirky style, I guess this can be cool. Yeah, give me 1 minute, guys. I need to get a drink. I'm a little parched here. Yes, yes, yes. I like it. I like it. This is from the audience, John Dandola, who just shared with us his Breguet Marine. This is the generation before this last one. I think it is the 5817 BR in pink gold with the big date. I like it. I think the previous generation offers something very different than the current one, while remaining quite distinctly Breguet. Of course, again, the coin-edged decoration on the flanks, those, very stylized lugs that can accommodate, I think, also a rubber strap as well. But I feel this sort of crocodile strap is probably more in tune with the aesthetic of this previous generation, because I think it is more like an elevated and sporty dress watch rather than a sports watch per se. So I I do like it. I think the newer generation is sportier while still remaining quite distinctly Breguet. Um, but the older generation too, there's a lot to appreciate. A lot to appreciate. Jimmy, Jimmy, come back, Jimmy. Yeah, we love Jimmy. Um, I really like it, and of course, guys, this sometimes confuses people. The On the dial, you will always have a unique number uh, that is that is basically the number of the caliber that powers that watch. So that's not the model number in this case. The model, if I'm not mistaken, is the 5817 in rose gold. And I absolutely adore the matching of that metal with that of the cuffling. Exquisite, man. That's very good. And yeah, I think this just really reflects the ethos of this previous generation of the Marine as like a cool dress watch. A little bit of guilloche decoration, a little bit of loom, on the hands and here, you know, uh, little pips behind or above the indices. Those propeller uh, like crown guards. So there's a lot that makes it unusual and quirky, but still very distinctly Breguet and very classical in a way. MLMJ says, I love the 5817 in black dial. Yeah, I love it in both ways, but yes, you're right. The black one looks amazing. Yeah, you're right. But this is more classic. This is dressier. And I like that. Yasha V says it's a beautiful watch, a bit hard to live with. Okay. It requires a certain lifestyle and dress style to match. I think I know what you mean, Yasha. Yeah, the older generation of Marine certainly is a dress watch aesthetic. And uh, surely you can wear it more than just under a linked cuff. But nevertheless, the way John wears it here, I think, is kind of the platonic ideal of how this watch should be worn in a way. But put it on a um, on its rubber band, and I'm sure you can dress it down wonderfully as well. And MLMJ says, I prefer this version of the Marine. Fabulous watch. And rubber makes it sporty looking, so quite versatile. And Jimmy says, the larger date complication reminds me a bit of Lange. Very well done on this Brexter. Yeah, well, Lange got it from others as well. So they, they don't necessarily have exclusive rights over it. But you're right. You're right. I actually like it um, like this quite a bit because it's very in a way, at 6 o'clock like that, um, it's less intrusive in a way than how many other brands put a date indicator right here, let's say, or at 3 o'clock. I think they handled the um, date window quite well in the recent generation as well. But there's something quite charming, like you said, uh, Jimmy, about the big dates. I do like how this turned out. Yeah, just so we have another point of reference, since MLMJ says he prefers the black dial. Here is that same model on the rubber strap and with a black dial. And I think this looks amazing too, and still quite dressy. Don't take me wrong, but very distinct again. Those lugs are a little sportier than what you would find elsewhere in Breguet's catalog, but still, just the pronounced way they come out of the case, um, all the angles, it's very recognizable. Of course, the coin edge, flanks, the rubber is a nice touch, and the black dial is uh, the same way, in the center with that hand guilloche decoration that is meant to resemble like a roaring wave rather than um, the more recent wave design that's a little different. Of course, you can already see a little bit here that fluting is actually all around, goes all around the case. It's not just the flanks. And I hope we can get a glimpse of the case back as well, because like MLMJ was saying, I think, or was it Yasha? Um, yeah, it was MLMJ, because I kind of like the rotor on this generation a little better than the new one, because it basically reproduces the design at the center of the dial, that wave design, and it's beautiful. I do like the movement of 5517, the recent generation, a little better. Um, and it has a skeletonized rotor that looks like half a ship's wheel, which again fits the aesthetic. The striping that is done on the bridge plates is again very unique in the new movement, so I appreciate that too. But this rotor is just beautiful, and the decoration on it is, again, it screams Breguet. You can't mistake it for anything else. Yeah, beautiful watch. Honestly, I like both of the versions in their own way. Both are amazing watches, if you ask me. This is perhaps a little dressier, a little more classic, and the newer one a little sportier and more adventurous, perhaps in terms of the design. Hey,
G'day.
Aussie
How
the
you doing?
rebel. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, good. Good. Yeah, it's
Nice to
been
see you,
really just terrible in the last few days. Just everything's rough.
man. Um, yeah, you look a little sleep deprived, but you're a new parent, so I guess that comes with the territory, right?
Yeah. It's part of the problems. I'm also going through a lease renewal, and my landlord's a complete fucking moron. Like every tenant says about their landlord, but
Mm.
honestly, like he's asked for a number that's about 10% above the market. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to stay in Las Vegas, but it's the last thing I really want to do right now is move. But I'm just like, okay, let's have a look at a few places in Texas or wherever. And yeah,
Oh,
yeah, he's so far off on the prices. Like I showed him, there's a house around the corner, exact same layout, that's $500 less. I'm just like, so for
so
rent, available now, vacant. I can move in there right now. I'm like, what's the point?
he's right. He's raising the rent, and it's also not only above what you pay now, but above the market value as well.
Yeah, like way above market. Like there's basically nothing on the market that I could find is worse value than that. Like every single option, I'm like, you know what, I would do that over this. Um, the only holdover is how much I don't want to move, and I actually do want to move, but timing's just not super great. Like I don't really want to commit to another year. Maybe 6 months, maybe 1 month. I don't really care. But it's just, I've got a newborn and everything. It's just a little bit funky. And I say idiot. I think he doesn't realize that it's way above market. I think he's
Mhm.
just he thinks he's savvy or something like that. It's like, well, you can just look up Zillow. You can look up anything, to be honest, and you can see like none of the places are actually at that level. So it's like, I don't know what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's a silly stress, but thankfully my wife's still in. But oh look, we got a
Journey.
rebel guest. I've tried to put him to bed like 3 times already, and I've given up.
He's not. He's not going to bed. It doesn't look like he's going to bed anytime soon. Look at him.
He's been doing that. Like he's been sneaking out of his room and hiding under our bed and doing all sorts of things. So yeah.
We were just talking about the previous generation um, of the Marine, and and I think, look, people have a certain appreciation for this watch, and I think it's reflected on the market value because they're not trending way below the current model in the secondary market. In fact, they're trending right around the um, same amount, maybe a little cheaper.
Mhm.
But MLMJ says, okay, Jimmy says, you have good taste. This looks amazing. Very, very nice on the rubber. Um, it's hard to find these. I've been trying to track one down at the right price. How the strap fits the lugs is so well done. Yeah, the rubber strap fits the lugs amazingly, right? Sits very flush. Um, that's very well done.
Mm.
But you shouldn't expect less from Breguet, honestly. So and the finishing is, of course, amazing. If you made me choose, I'd go for the pink gold on rubber, more versatile. And then it's me begging for likes and subscriptions. And MLMJ says the stainless steel on rubber is love.
Breguet is one of those brands that scare the crap out of me. Like,
As it should, as it should.
like it scares the crap out of me. Like I try not to do any research on them because I worry I may want it, and that would be a bad thing to do.
I love it, man. The reason I said as it should is because if people like you actually didn't hesitate to buy a brand like Breguet, it would be inaccessible for people like me. So please, stay where you are. Don't buy Breguet. It's a minefield, man. It's a minefield. The value depreciation. Don't touch it.
Well, I'm not just saying value. I mean, it like the value depreciation just makes it harder to justify, harder to get. You know what I mean? Like it just, yeah, it just makes it really, really intimidating. Like I see their store at the Win, such a beautiful shop, and
Mm.
beautiful watchmaking. And if I really thought about it and loved it, I'd be in deep trouble.
And look, I mean, here's the thing: if you want to mitigate that risk, of course, you look in the secondary market, because value depreciation is a serious concern if you somehow want the boutique experience, you want the luxury experience. And Breguet actually does it well, right?
Mm.
They will really sell you this idea that, oh, you will have your place in our books, in our archives, in Place Vendôme, right next to Napoleon Bonaparte, Winston Churchill, and Rubinstein, and this and that. I mean, yeah, it's a very sweet story, and you can get a handwritten letter from Emmanuel Breguet on exquisite stationery and everything, but I don't think anything justifies that, because you can get them basically at 40-50% off in the
Mm.
secondary market, barely unworn, almost new condition. So they
Mm.
that's a good deal. That's a good thing for the collector. Value depreciation is a good thing for the collector. Um, so for me, it's Breguet is one of those brands like Jaeger LeCoultre that I really appreciate because of that. Really, that doesn't hurt the brand for me. For me, that makes me love them more as an enthusiast, because I could care less about
Mm.
their standing in the Holy Trinity and this or that. Um, No, no, I didn't see a Harvey Weinstein. God forbid, man. No, no, it's Arthur Rubinstein, the Polish American pianist. He wore one. I don't remember which model, but he wore a Breguet. I know that for a fact. Um, but look, man. I mean, if Harvey wore one, it's don't get me started. You know what watch I'm talking about. The news are going around. Um, I'm not gonna bring it up in any way, but some really despicable person in history apparently wore a Reverso as well. Um, I'm not gonna cede that model to, to those people. So if Harvey Weinstein wore a Breguet, fuck him. But it's not gonna change the brand for me. Um, is there speaking of the rent, by the way?
Mm.
Do you have the option in Nevada to go month to month or something when your lease expires?
It's all private. So there's the remote possibility that I renew for um, and ask for a different rate. And normally, there's expectation comes with a higher rate, but I think in this
Mm.
case, we would be like, okay, you get this higher rate for a little while for tenant that you trust, and we part ways in about 6 months. I think we could swing that, but to be honest, now's not a bad time to leave. So I'm not sure
Mhm.
I would or would not. I don't know. I don't know. Moving to another house in Vegas. This will be pretty simple. Like we're really not stuck with respect to whatnot. To we're not stuck here. Basically, it would be far more convenient if we did move. My only commute each day is to Junior's daycare. Takes up like an hour of the day. 2 trips, 15 minutes each way.
Mm.
And if we could cut that down, that would be a huge boost for our life. So there are places that are about $1,000 cheaper with just as many bedrooms that are much closer and closer to restaurants and things like that. So it would actually be better for us. So it's just whether or not all of those good things together outweigh the minor turmoil of, moving. So we'll see. At
Yeah.
this point, I'm sort of committed to moving. I kind of lost trust with this guy. Like, if you're going to try and assert that you've got market price or whatever, I mean, I don't mind negotiating, but he's not really negotiating. He's like, no, well, it's a fair price. I was like, well, show me any comps. Like, here's 3 Zillow houses in the immediate area. This place is not as good as those, and those are under 3,000. So,
Well, I mean, if you get professional help, it's not that bad. moving, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
one hellish day, basically.
Yeah, and we don't have that much stuff ultimately. A lot of it's light. It's really not that bad. And then there's a lot of small stuff which we have a minivan. That's kind of perfect for that kind of thing. So we would get professional help for all of the really big stuff, and then there might
Mhm.
be some minor trips with the minivan, and we probably wouldn't be moving more than 10 minutes away. So we're really not talking about ultimately that much pain. It really could be much worse.
Okay, so it doesn't look too bad, but I
Yeah,
guess by
but
now,
if I'm moving, I'd love to move to Texas or Florida instead. But it's a little bit. That's the move that would be a little bit difficult for us right now. I don't have any time to make trips to those locations to scope things out, but it's possible. It's possible. You just pull the trigger. It's like, quote unquote, what's the best area in Austin? Find a 3 or 4 bedroom place and rent it, because those rents are like somewhere around under 3,000, so it'll work out.
hmm,
My little guest.
oh wow, they have a very nice advertisement with Arthur Rubinstein and the perpetual calendar. Yeah, their dress watches is really another level, um, another level of beauty, if you ask me. Yeah, the passion leaves its traces. That's what it says. La passion laisse des traces. Yeah, and it says from 1934, a client of Breguet's. See, they know how to tug at those heartstrings of people who would buy into something like this. But hey, they have to do something to justify those prices, and someone has to pay for Emmanuel Breguet's Hotel Particulier in Paris. So, guys, chip in, buy Breguet at retail so that the name survives. But yeah, thanks Yasha for bringing it to our attention. Roar of the Tiger says the monster of the 20th century engraved with the corrupted symbol that was previously associated with Buddhism. I saw plenty in Vietnam. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Roar. Yep. Yeah, that wasn't the best news I received a few weeks ago. I have been hearing about it, and now it's apparently penetrated the mainstream as well. So I'm sure we will hear about it. I'm just expecting some of the usual suspects to talk about it so I can take notes. No worries there. What other brands are you afraid of, Aussie? What scares you?
um yeah, good question. Yeah, like Patek, AP, anything where the average price starts rapidly exceeding $10,000. Like, it's just a price range I can't really get into. It's just too much. It's too much. I can't do it. It's just way too much. Now there are some Rolexes that started, getting pretty pricey, right? But
That's
I
right.
didn't pay that much for them.
That's true. But I mean, like, that's again, I guess you spoke about this before, that there was a moment perhaps that you could have been a one watch guy, but that moment passed you by pretty quickly, and
Yeah,
you're a collector, just like the rest of us,
yeah,
afflicted by the same disease. Um, but at the end of the day, it's that, right? You could have, with all the Rolex you have bought over the years, you could, well, over the last 2 years, I guess,
Mhm.
right? You could
Mhm.
have bought a nice Patek,
Yeah,
possibly.
I'm not sure that really entices me. I've been really enjoying just my black sub. Um, you know, it's simple, classic, sort of almost no nonsense. It's a little flashy to say it's really no nonsense, right? Something like a Black Bay 58 is a lot more appropriate. Or maybe this watch over here, mind the desk, but it's like
Yeah.
that's a uh, Echo Show 15. It's like a 15-inch Echo, but it just displays all my recent photos, so
Oh,
it's, it's nice. I was thinking about getting a clock, but like little desk clocks and stuff like that, like 50, $60 for even cheap plastic ones. So the Echo
right.
shows I got for like $100, and it shows all of my pictures and the time, and I don't have to keep setting it.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. And you can, I think you were showing mostly your watch pictures on it too, so it kind of has that theme anyways, the horological theme. So
Exactly. It does add to it. Well, it's just displaying the last 500 photos I've taken with my phone. So it's anywhere between family photos and watch photos. You can tell my priorities whether or not. That's a lot of watch photos there. It's like, yeah, I guess.
well, look, it's watches, guns, family.
Mhm.
I think it's a nice combination, you wouldn't be blamed. Curly Q has an interesting theory. I don't think we should really propagate this, but hey man, it's yeah, I'm just keeping the optimism, honestly, Curly Q. Yeah, Watch Nicholas is always welcome here. I hope he comes back first and foremost on his platform, which I really love, value. I'm a fan of Watch Nicholas. I'm a friend of Watch Nicholas. So I hope his channel is just fine, and it's just a short blackout. Let's put it like that. Um, Roar of the Tiger, your avatar is very cool. P40 Warhawk. Awesome bird. Jimmy,
Hmm.
thanks. The username is taken from a portrait and Time magazine cover from December 1943. General Claire Chenot.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah, it was a pure coincidence, by the way, that we ended up talking about Breguet Marine today, because John Dandala sent a picture of his earlier. So we ended up just harping on a few different iterations from the earlier generation, because he shared with us his 5817. Um, and I think this is their pink gold, but I can't be sure. Maybe it is yellow gold.
My tummy hurts.
Oh,
I gotta take care of Junior. He's obviously eating something he shouldn't have.
I understand, man. Go, yeah,
All
go take
right.
care of Junior.
Have a good evening.
All right, man. Take care. Bye. Bye, Junior. Yeah, I think John's is the yellow gold, by the way. I may have tripped a little bit there. I think this is 5817 BA rather than BR. Yeah, absolutely. I think those are heat blued hands and Roman numerals, so this should be the yellow gold. Should be. But yeah, in all these configurations, I think the watch looks amazing, and something else comes out of it in each case. Guys, by the way, again, if you have just joined us, this is our daily watch talk live stream, the late show. Please hit the like button if you want to support this kind of content that is exclusively dedicated to the knowledge and passion for wristwatches. Uh, Spread the word, share the link on other platforms, talk about the channel on other channels. That's the best way to help me. That's the best way to help expand this community that's built around knowledge and friendship. And ultimately, I am trying to reach as my first goal 1,000 subs, which will allow me to get the channel monetized as well, so I can get a little bit uh, more in return of um, of uh, a little bit more in return of my time and effort here. And if you want to contribute before the channel gets monetized, before I reach 1,000 subscribers, if you want to help keep this platform self-sustaining, autonomous, completely independent, and absolutely not beholden to any industry interests, the interests of the gray market dealers and others who work in the background and behind the scenes, you already have three ways. I have a PayPal account that's connected to lordhellespontv@gmail.com. That's lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I have a Cash App, $ LHVVV, and my Patreon account that I just opened. I basically made that with the explicit purpose of increasing the quantity and quality of content on this channel. And if I raise enough contributions there, I plan to institute 2 additional live streams per week earlier in the day, so I can actually produce more content on a daily basis for a UK based audience, for a continental European audience, and in fact, for more people on the East Coast and other parts of the US and of the Americas, really, for whom the late show is a little bit too late. I've already posted the links in the chat, and the information is in the crawling ticker and included in the video description. So if you would like to contribute to keep the channel self-sustaining and fully independent, that would be much appreciated. But I'm already grateful for your support and presence. I'm already grateful for the fact that you are spreading the word, that you are bringing more people into the community, that you are generating a lot of conversations from the chats, that you are intervening, interjecting, and this is really your platform, right? This is a platform that is for you and that takes its cues, that takes its direction, that takes its energy from the audience. So thank you for being here, and thank you for helping me produce this kind of content. And Jimmy says, this is something I paid attention to as well. Looks like John matched his cufflinks to the watch, both gold, cool. And ultimately, that's what ticked me off, because I thought this was the pink gold version, but then again, both the white dial and the blue hands, as well as the way I'm pretty sure that the cufflinks are yellow gold. I wanted to make sure that the watch is yellow gold as well, and it is. Pardon me. This is 5817 BA. Um, yeah, John has great taste in watches, and certainly this is an absolute hit. let me just grab another drink of water, guys. Yeah, the way he put it together here, really brings out the dressier aesthetic of this previous generation of the Marine. And of course, on that crocodile leather strap, it's exactly like that. But on rubber, whether it's in gold or steel, I think it becomes sportier and also very interesting and versatile as a watch as well. So Lange basically revealed what they have been doing. Did you guys check that out? Did you guys hear about that? Were you surprised? Were you interested? Did you just miss it? Because they had focused uh, on the phrase split second in the marketing. So I completely thought, well, where do they go from here? They already did a double split second chronograph. They have also done a triple split second. Where do they go from here? There's no such thing as quadruple split, but apparently they just wanted to do a limited edition uh, split second, that is to say, rattrapante chronograph for their 1815 series. And it looks absolutely amazing. And they did it again. The way that the dial looks, so balanced with with the with the two registers at 12 and 6 o'clock, the running seconds at 6, and the 30-minute totalizer at 12 o'clock. It's just amazing. And one thing they also do really well, uh, one thing that Lange does really well, is how they use script and writing in dial design. Right, in this case, they spelled out everything basically. They usually have I S slash A, right? This time they spelled it out Glashütte in Sachsen. So you have an incredible sense of balance between the two chronograph registers and the writing on the dial. Alang und Söhne at 12 o'clock. Of course, the start, stop, reset, and the rattrapante. It looks great. The heat blued hands, of course, that is a beautiful touch. The movement, as always, looks like an entire landscape. You have those floral freehand engraved decorations on the swan neck regulator. Beautiful column wheel there. 365 parts apparently in the movement. And an entirely new caliber, of course. L101.2, painstakingly assembled, disassembled, cleaned, lavishly decorated, and then finally reassembled to ensure the highest standards. That's what they call the double assembly or twofold assembly. And you just gotta love the material they use on the bridge plates. This is German silver, right? It's an alloy of copper, zinc, and nickel. And it has a, unlike the usual alloys of silver, it has a yellowish hue that in fact takes on a certain patina as it goes through time. So a lot of times in um, Lange watches from an earlier era, you can see the patina on the movement itself, which is really a beautiful thing for those of us who appreciate some wear and tear, some fading and patina on the watches. So the German silver that is used on the bridge plates of Alan Gonzone age in a very particular way, very unique way. MLMJ says amazing craftsmanship by a wizard. Oh, yeah, we should look at that. I have seen the Blancpain Bathyscaphe. I was talking about it with Watch Nicholas actually earlier. Mm. After Lange, let's go back to the Blancpain release. Movement on the Lange 1815 Rattrapante is crazy. The layers and detail work is out of this world. And MLMJ says amazing craftsmanship by Wizard. Yeah. Wizard, among other things, is also an expert in hand finishing watch calibers, of course. This is how they do the perlage. Yeah, amazing stuff. So yes, guys, that's my supposed secret trip tomorrow out of town. I'm gonna I'm gonna go and see this new model and some other rare Lange um, watches. There's going to be a watchmaker also present to demonstrate, to explain, to elaborate. Hopefully, they will allow me to film in some way. Um, my equipment is pretty meager, and that's why I usually ask for contributions. But hey, we'll get there in time. We'll get there in time, and I will bring you at least the knowledge and the passion and whatever they allow me actually to film. I'll bring that in as content as well, and I really look forward to tomorrow. I guess I won't really fall asleep tonight thinking about the Aarlangonzone 1815 Rattrapant, their split second chronograph that is, I think, only produced in a limited edition of 200. See what they have on their webpage. Yeah, they basically had it in honey gold. Right. So now this new one is the platinum. Ah, Yeah, the platinum watches generally drive me crazy. I'm very much a white metal guy. I like I like white metals. I like white gold. I like steel. I mean, I obviously like steel, um, but platinum is really special. Just the weight and heft of it. Yeah, and this is going to be 200 pieces worldwide. Wonder what the price is like, but yeah, I don't even want to think. Hey, Roar of the Tiger, good night, man. Thank you so much for being here. And I understand that on the East Coast it might be a little hard. Um, and Jimmy says, very cool. Sounds like a great trip. Looking forward to seeing what you see. Hey, I'll do my best to share, and hopefully I can get good shots. Basil's Beazle, same man. Lovely to see you. Welcome to the channel. Yeah, take care, Roar of the Tiger. Have a good evening. So yeah, that was the Alain Gonzone 1815 Rattrapante in platinum, and Blancpain just released a full calendar, a complete calendar in Bathyscaphe. The bathyscaphe was created in 1956 with the aim of offering a diver's watch whose size would make it suitable for everyday wear, right? So bathyscaphe is basically a smaller design based on that iconic 50 fathoms. It's one of the mainstays of the 50 Fathoms collection. It has evolved over the years and was reinterpreted by Blancpain in 2013 to mark the 60th anniversary of the 50 Fathoms. And here you see the two new versions of the complete calendar in the bathyscaphe case. Combining sporty features with the day of the week, month, and date indications, the bathyscaphe Quantième Complet model reinforces the principle of everyday utility that gave rise to the first bathyscaphe. The information on the dial is complemented by a moon phase positioned in a large window at 6 o'clock. I actually love these sorts of anthropomorphic human face moon phases a lot. I think they're quirky. I think they're cute. I think they're amazing. Um, and yeah, this is a beautiful watch and incredibly wearable too. I think in titanium it would be probably not too unreasonable either. Measuring 43 millimeter in diameter and water resistant to 30 bar, so 300 meters. The new bathyscaphe Quantième Complet is available in two satin brushed versions with well marked contours, one in red gold and the other in grade 23 titanium. The red gold model is paired with a sunburst blue gradient dial that catches the light with remarkable ease. The gold hour markers, hands, and moon match the case color, and the dial is framed by a unidirectional rotating bezel with a brilliant blue ceramic inlay featuring a Saragold timescale. Meanwhile, the titanium model is distinguished by subtle shades of gray. The sunburst anthracite dial is enhanced by gold hour markers, rhodium plated hands, and moon. The likewise anthracite ceramic bezel is satin brushed for a resolutely contemporary matte effect and bears a graduated liquid metal scale. I mean, That blue dial on the red gold is amazing. But I kind of like the titanium and that monochromatic look. It's very cool. I think that would be also nice on a sailcloth strap rather than the full bracelet treatment. But let's see how they're actually priced. You know, Blancpain certainly is an elite brand and it's priced usually accordingly. But hey, for the full calendar, um, titanium full bracelet, this doesn't look so outrageous, honestly, for 18,400. Now, I would like to see how they wear because again, on paper 43 might look intimidating to me. You know, I've had my recent experience with the Sea Dweller 43, which just looks comical on my wrist, and in a way I can't really balance with my larger proportions either. But 50 fathoms at 45, honestly, it's still a very wearable watch. So this version of the complete calendar of the triple dates with the moon phase could be very interesting. And here in pink gold, it's on a blue sailcloth strap that plays really well with the blue gradient dial. You have, of course, the date indicator, day, month. Yeah, this is a beautiful watch. I really don't like their website, you know, because I wish they put more pictures of the watch, of the movement, you know, how it looks from, from the exhibition case back. Yeah, probably some random website has better pictures and better visuals than they do, which is always a shame. No, actually, no one has good pictures of this. Um, Kind of disappointing that they didn't even supply the press with more detailed pictures. It just looks like, yeah, it just looks like renderings, honestly. It's not the most gorgeous calendar movement that I've ever seen either. But hey, I mean, I do love it. I love it obviously in red gold, but the value is on the titanium, which comes with the full bracelet. I don't know if they throw in the NATO strap and the sailcloth as well, but it looks great on those as well. The red gold or pink gold is absolutely gorgeous. Um, I think I think pink gold and blue actually works really great. Also, pink and chocolate brown work great as well. But in this case, I think blue just feels right, because of the nautical heritage of the watch, because of this inherent sportiness of the watch. I think blue is just a more fitting color in this case. So I genuinely love it. What other complications do they have in the 50 Fathoms line? Not necessarily in the bathyscaphe. Yeah, they have the Grand Date, of course, which we have seen in a very similar execution in the Marine. And chances are, by the way, these two watches probably share the caliber. Um, for a 300 with the big date module, I'm sure Swatch Group doesn't have a million different stuff. This is great. Probably costs a prohibitive amount, but I want to bring that up, the flyback chronograph with the full calendar. Oh, okay. It's not so bad. Yeah, I was genuinely expecting it to cost some unfathomable, no pun intended, amount of money. But apparently they have the 50 Fathoms chronograph, flyback chronograph with full calendar again. Date, day, month, the 12-hour totalizer, the 30-minute totalizer, the running seconds, moon phase, and guilloche decoration at the center of the dial. I kind of like this a little better, and it it offers more value, of course. This is also a steel case, which I prefer to titanium, quite honestly. I like it. I like it. Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's you don't get a full calendar and chronograph without cluttering the dial a little bit. But I do agree. That's why I usually don't go for these sorts of complications. I had to take my time even to get used to an all black chronograph layout. So imagine, imagine. Yeah, I think ultimately, of course, the classic 50 Fathoms look is incredible, but that Grand Date execution is lovely as well, as MLMJ is saying. Yeah, it's nice. Oh yeah, I'll go back to the tank. Yeah, now that I see the gray one with the red details, that's nice too. The titanium complete calendar in bathyscaphe that they just came out. But yeah, 43 millimeters is a bit on the large side. Again, you have to try it. You have to put it on your wrist. Let's see what Fratello did with the Cartier lineup. LHV says there's always the Putin big dates Blancpain variant. Yeah, man. I mean, it's a nice watch. What can I say? Um, I try to keep that, out of my mind usually. But yeah, this is amazing, and you can find some decent deals on the secondary market for a lot of the 50 fathoms as well. That brings it down to a more reasonable level. In either case, I mean, the movement on these the 13, 15 is a lovely movement. It's very nicely decorated. Don't necessarily expect from it the kind of hand finishing we were just looking at. Pardon me, at the Alangonzone chronograph. But when it comes to workhorse movements for sports watches, um, this is really one of the top of the line. Um, there's not much like it. 5 days of power reserve, hours, minutes, seconds, date, and um, don't let this picture fool you to think it's hand wound movement. It's just they wanted to display, I think, all the bridge plates and details, so it's shown without rotor. Here it is actually an automatic movement. Not a fan of gold. If they had a white gold, I would be all over that. A shame only hand wound is 18K yellow gold. Well, all right. If we're talking about the tank already, let me pull that up. So did they just post this piece on the tanks? Just a few days ago, I guess. Ooh. Oh, nice. Nice. I'm kind of jealous of the fact that tank can look good on a steel bracelet as well. It's that's one of the things about the reverso, I just completely, yeah, I don't like at all um how its steel bracelet looks. I mean, in any metal it's the same design anyways. I just don't think it's a timeless design. I don't think it really even fits with the case. I wish they came up with something um, that made it look a little different, that gave people at least the option. But yeah, I don't think there are many people who like that rice grain bracelet for the reverso. But this looks great. This 3-link steel bracelet looks fantastic, and I do love the that classic Cartier buckle as well. Gotta love it, man. It's coming in September 2022. I think it provides a very somber, classical, and distinguished alternative um, to those colorful ones that they had released earlier. And apparently it has a um, quick change system again between the strap, between the alligator strap and the stainless steel bracelet. So that's always a great thing. Yeah, this is a very nice watch. Beautiful, beautiful. Marco Mega says 34 upvotes. Hey guys, thank you so much. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do. It really helps. For me, it makes all the difference, right? This is a small channel. I need all the exposure I can get, and spread the word. Tell all your friends, share the link, talk about the channel on other platforms, and help me get to 1,000 subs, guys. Yeah, the blue cabochon is great. Yeah, look, I mean, it's a very, very simple and elegant design. The tank will always be there. And I think the simpler it's executed, the more beautiful it is, actually. That's why I like the Must series. It's those lacquer dials. It's amazing. And I think in black, actually, it's even better. You know, I loved the way they released those different colors, you know, green, burgundy, blue, and they all looked fine. They all looked great, in fact. But turns out that, you know, the simpler the better. The black is really the best. And MLMJ says I will get the black on leather strap. Earlier he says not a fan of the gold. If they had a white gold, I would be all over that. A shame only that hand wound is in 18K yellow gold. Of course, this is a quartz movement, but again, look, I mean, for this kind of dress watch, look at it as a feature rather than a bug. You know, you get something discreet, elegant, thin, um, at an affordable price point. If it's a special occasion watch for you, you don't have to worry about, you know, winding it, resetting it. Um, it'll be ticking for quite some time. Again, you know, for me, I don't really, you know, I don't really like quartz watches for that reason. For me, I don't really need any of those advantages. I try to keep everything in circulation. I try to keep everything in rotation. So it's a pleasure for me to pick them up, you know, after a week usually, or after 5 6 days, and set the time, you know, wind them up a little bit, even when they're automatic. um, it gives you something to do, you know, it gives you something, some reason to engage with the watch, get familiar again, before you put it back on your wrist. um, but for a dress watch like this, especially if you're going to use it as a special occasion watch, it's not really a drawback to have a quartz movement in it. Jimmy says it's pure class. MLMJ says they also have done a 50-piece release for the Geneva boutique with a black crown, but it's too small for my wrists as it is a 25 millimeter. So I'll wait for the September release, which will be bigger. Yeah, let me see what that is. see if we can find it. Oh yeah, we did on Corona 24. And yeah, that has a black cabochon on the crown. That's right. Hmm. Honestly, I prefer the blue. I think that's really iconic, so I don't mind that. Um, Black on black, I guess that is the aesthetic, but I think it's a nice little pop of color there, and it's not really a very bright or pale shade of blue, anyways. So it won't stand out. Um, it won't stand out in a bad way. And quite frankly, I like it better in steel. I think yellow for this kind of watch, the black and gold look, it's a little too severe for me. It's already an iconic dress watch. This makes it a little over the top for me. Jimmy says, doesn't bother me that it's quartz with no sweeping seconds hand. It's not as noticeable, if you will. Yeah, that's another thing. Again, this is a very classical dress watch. It doesn't really need a second hand to begin with. So there's an additional advantage that Jimmy mentioned. You don't need to reset it. If you're wearing it from one occasion to another, perhaps just a few times during the year, you don't have to worry about, setting the right time, the date, and whatever. You just strap it on and go. And again, a quartz movement allows it to be uh, thin, discreet, sleek, at an affordable price point, right? For something like this with a manual caliber, um, for example, the yellow gold, I don't even know what the price difference is. Do you remember the price point, MLMJ? Because I'm not sure if the Fratello article actually talks about it. Fratello actually is complaining about the design of the bracelet. Yeah, I actually prefer this much, much more to those rice grain bracelets for these kinds of dress watches. Again, I wish Roger Lecoultre did a new bracelet design um, in matching metal, a more modernized take for the reversa as well. So I appreciate that Cartier did just that with this Tank Solo bracelet. It's amazing. Mm. Yeah, not sure I can find the price point. I mean, one way to check it is, of course, to look at the prices of the line up now. I'm sure the black won't be much different. Watches, tank. Mm. Yeah, I'm not sure if that collection is shown here. Yeah, I guess maybe they sold out. But I'm guessing on leather strap it will be something like 3K. And for the gold one, I'm sure it's very, very different. Right. I mean, look at that. This is an amazing watch too, by the way. Oh my God. MLMJ says, oh, the color variants have been discontinued already. All right, cool. I've inquired with Cartier already, said between 2,600 to 3,000 pounds sterling for the stainless steel, 8 to 10,000 for the yellow gold version. We are talking about the new tank must in black with the black lacquer, pardon me, dial. Um, it makes sense. I mean, here's the tank Louis with in yellow gold. Yeah, I love this piece. Of course, in precious metal, they actually set an actual, an authentic sapphire cabochon on the crown, which is always a nice touch. Yeah, this is beautiful. What else is going on in the world of Cartier? What do we think about the two-tone execution in the Santos? Do we like it? That's the large. Do they have it in medium? I don't necessarily like the date window on those, so there we go. By the way, guys, did you know since the original Santos was designed for a pilot, namely Alfred Santos Dumont, the exposed screws on the bezel were actually designed that way to echo with the rivets on on the planes of that period. So that's made me love that design element even more. And I think it's I like the two-tone on the Santos. Perhaps not as much as I like it on, say, the Royal Oak. Which I think is the best execution, when you have those tapered interlinks as well as the octagonal bezel and the crown in gold. But this is quite nice as well. The steel medium is the perfect size for the Santos. I completely agree. And MLMJ actually enjoyed the earlier Tank Louis in Burgundy. It's really, yeah, it's not true red. It's also kind of, at least in these pictures, kind of a shade lighter and burgundy. Let me see. I think Mark Cho has this watch. And he had just posted a wrist shot of it. He has a similar watch, right? He has the blue version of this basically, which I think is in pink gold. Mm. This is fantastic as well. I wonder if that's in production too. Yeah, that may be out of production, but this is also a very nice shade of blue. Again, it's not quite like navy, but maybe just a tinge lighter. And even though we don't have a great picture on the website for this particular watch, I also expect it to be quite similar in that way, that it's not a bright red, but not quite burgundy either, but maybe one shade lighter. In either case, I think it's tank in precious gold, precious metal is just extremely elegant, and they usually have good designs, good dial layouts to go with it as well. Something special. Yeah, when it comes to the Santos, yeah, I don't know if I'm into the precious metals all that much. I think Santos just makes a little more sense in steel. I know people love blue dial watches. I think it just doesn't look right to me for this watch. I really don't like, the ADLC, blue, black, all those executions. I can kind of see how the two-tone is a nice execution. I think it adds a fascinating contrast to the model. Um, but ultimately, I don't know, as much as I like two-tone watches, and having started today's show with a two-tone 5-digit Daytona, I think ultimately it's really the steel with Santos that steals the show. Unless, of course, you're gonna go with the Santos Dumont and something dressier, on a leather strap, then that's a different vibe. But on a full bracelet, I think, as HK put it in the chat, I think the medium in steel is the best of both worlds. It's really the best option. Guys, we're roughly in the last half hour of the show. So if you have not hit the like button yet, please do. It really does help. It matters a lot to me, actually. That little bit of exposure I gain gets me really ahead. If you share the link, if you spread the word, that's something I would appreciate even more. Ultimately, and yes, subscribe if you haven't already. This is a channel that is built entirely around the knowledge and passion for wristwatches. It doesn't have any other agenda, and it's a completely independent platform that's open and open to all. And it would really help me if I can reach my first goal of 1,000 subscribers so I can get the channel monetized, so I can get something more in return of the time and effort and all the work I put in this channel. So with that in mind, if you would like to contribute, um, if you would like to help keep this channel self-sustaining, completely autonomous, independent, and not beholden to any industry interests, not beholden to the interests of the gray market, not directed in any way by games and other sorts of conspiracies that go behind the scenes. Please, you can already contribute in 3 different ways. I have a PayPal, that's lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com, my primary point of content. So if you want something specialized, you send me an email with your request, with a contribution that goes with it. You can also use Cash App for that. That's $LHVVV, $LHVVV. And I also have a Patreon account that I started with the explicit purpose to increase the quality and quantity of content on this channel. And my first goal, if I raise enough contributions on Patreon, is to basically institute 2 additional live streams earlier in the day. That is to say, at least twice a week, earlier in the day, additional live streams that would more directly communicate with the audience from the UK, from continental Europe, and even from other parts of the Americas, the East Coast especially, for whom this late show is a little bit too late. So I have already posted the links, and the information is always there in the crawling ticker, as well as the video description. So if you would like to contribute at any point in time, you can use that information and those links as well. And I really appreciate, again, that you're here. At the end of the day, this channel is directed by its audience, is dependent on its audience, is guided by its audience. This is your platform. You help me create the content with your interjections, with your interventions, with your questions, with your suggestions from the chat, from the emails you send me, from the comments you leave on the videos. So I very much appreciate that. And it really means the world to me. So I'm grateful for your presence and support. And if that's the only way you can support it, that's more than enough for me. Just hit the like button and share the link, tell all your friends, and help me expand this community. But if you can do more, I welcome any sort of contribution as well. Speaking of brands that I really appreciate, and earlier there was a there was a question about independence. For me, it's really Laurent Ferrier. They have come into attention as a lot of the um, independents do with their sports watch, right? Uh, I think it's this one, right? The Sport Auto Blue or Sport Auto Blue. Um, I really don't like the design. I think it's it's a little bit too much of the TV um, TV case or TV shape for me. I absolutely hate the way that the bracelet tapers from the case. Um, the movement looks amazing as it usually does in Laurent Ferrier watches. I mean, look at that minute work of perlage that decorates the micro rotor. It's just yeah, it's a beautiful thing to contemplate. But for me, the sleeper in this collection is really the square watches, which to me seems like a very modern and elegant interpretation of the original Rolex case, right? Which is the oyster case, the original oyster case, which was also what was supplied, of course, to Panerai by Rolex. So that cushion-shaped case, that beautiful uh, onion crown there, sit flush by 3 o'clock. The hands are very distinctive, so you won't get it confused for anything else if you ask me. I think the blue dial is amazing. I love that brushed grain and the way it contrasts with the deeper, darker navy blue of the subsidiary dial for the seconds. And of course, again, you have something really that is a work of art when you look back at the movement. The snailing that is done on that full gold micro rotor, which I think is 22 carats, 72-hour power reserve. Very good. Yeah, it's a very elegant watch. And as you see, from different angles, that dial is very lively as well. And of course, look, at the authorized dealer, this is something like $50,000, right? But I have recently seen these for less than 30K in the secondary market. So it's it can be an interesting entry into a high horology independent brand that's that produces watches that are incredibly stylish, um, and very distinctive without, really copying or replicating what is already out there. GB Vol says, my Rolex AD was trying to steer me towards buying one of these. Okay. Well, I mean, again, I think this is not a watch, at least at this point in time, in this state of the market, this is not a watch you would want to buy from the AD. But recently, I've seen a lot of Laurent Ferrier watches, especially the square ones in all different metals. Pardon me, I've seen in steel, I've seen in pink gold. Um, I've also seen one of the classics, so the round shaped cases. I think the same watch is also incredibly beautiful in the salmon dial too. Um, yeah, incredible, incredible. Laurent Ferrier, by the way, is um, himself someone with decades of experience working at Patek Philippe himself. He's not a watchmaker. He was at the point of his retirement the head of the design department. He's himself a race car driver, so a gentleman driver, so to speak, whose team had placed right behind Paul Newman's team in that famous Le Mans race. So Paul Newman was second, Laurent Ferrier was third. So an interesting name. He brings a lot of knowledge to the brand, a lot of horological knowledge, a lot of perspective on design. Clearly, they know what they're doing in terms of their designs, in terms of the way they build their calibers and decorate them and finish them. And they also have, of course, beyond these three handers, they have also more complicated watches, right? In the École series, especially, they have an annual calendar of their own. They have, I think, they have in the past come out, and in fact, that was their presentation on the first page. They have a dual time watch like this, which is a very beautiful shade of green that they call magnetic, but it looks like mint green, the spare mint, as I called it before, limited edition of 15. Um, Again, that barley corn decoration, this time on the rotor. They always try to do something different, as you see, even in the way they put their movements together and decorate them. So it's quite fascinating. By the way, I think GB Vol sent me a message on Instagram. I want to check that out. Should I bring this up, or are you asking me a question about this, GB Vol? Oh, should I bring it up? Let me know. If you don't want me to bring it up, I will just talk about it um, here on the show, and we'll go from there. One thing that pains me about a lot of watches, of course, but certainly about Tudor Submariners is still, just 5, 6 years ago, they were dime a dozen, and you could get them for 3, 5K at most, depending on condition. So something like this would absolutely be available at that price range. But you just have to, yeah, you just have to, come to terms with the fact that the market has changed. The market has changed in vintage, and it's uh, it's not what it is. But this example that you sent me is um, is very charming. It's not in the top condition, but 79/28s are very desirable. This is basically like a contemporary of my 4-digit sub a few years earlier, where they were still using the gilt dials. So this should be like mid 60s, I'm assuming. I don't mind the missing pip or anything, and the case looks to be in good condition. The bracelet, of course, I'm sure it has a little bit of stretch, but nothing that you should mind. For me, I always start with the dial, with the case, and then go to everything else. And I don't know what this is that I'm seeing at 6 o'clock. I'm sure it's nothing and it's just a reflection. But the dial, as much as I can examine from the pictures, looks fine. The hands are, of course, corroded, and that's usually a sign of something that was compromised in terms of the waterproofing of the watch. So for the hands to have corroded like that, uh, and for the loom to have fallen off like that, and the dial not being damaged, would be very surprising, if you ask me. So I would want to examine the entire dial, you know, bit by bit, um, under loop, to make sure that there's no excessive damage, spotting, corroding. But there's something beautiful about a Tudor sub, with the rose on the dial, with a gilt dial, but it's quite expensive at 20,000. It's not cheap at all. You see those beaks, those pointed crown guards. Yeah, the mid 60s, man. It's or the 60s in general. I mean, that's the time. For me, that's the golden age of the sub. Um, and this is a nice example, but I would rather try to find it maybe in a place that's a little bit out of sight, out of mind, for something cheaper, because in this condition, you either go all in and wear it exactly like this, and be absolutely nonchalant about it, or you put away those hands and you get them replaced with something that's still those Mercedes hands, with the lollipop, but perhaps have superluminova. I'm sure you can find an expert who can do that for you, because I would not want them to restore it at this point, right? You either wear it as it is, or you get the hands modernized in some way. Um, and that bezel used to be black. Yeah, this is not the blue subs. This is a bezel that has seen some real ghosting. MLMJ says, would love it if Tudor released a new sub. I completely disagree with this, MLMJ. I don't think they should release a new sub. Tudor is Tudor, Rolex is Rolex. Um, they are certainly aligned. They are certainly part of the larger enterprise together. But that being said, they also do different things. They focus on different aspects of the Rolex Tudor heritage. I think Tudor, on the one hand, is a great custodian of the Rolex heritage in the way they reinterpret some of those designs or some of those design elements for our time and execute it in the form of a modern tool watch. But they're also, they're in a way the heritage arm of Rolex, but they're also the experimental arm of Rolex in the sense that they were the ones who first did an LHD left-hand drive watch under the Rolex umbrella. They're the ones who are experimenting with different kinds of material, you know, from ceramic to titanium to bronze to silver, some of which we can soon see in the Rolex lineup. I think ceramic would be the first to make it there. But yeah, we will see. For me, it would be the wrong direction. I think it would be impinging on Rolex's territory, whereas Tudor has a very specific purpose under the umbrella. Joey says a new Tudor sub would be amazing. MLMJ says, gotta hope that they come out with a sub this. And this says, that's why you have the Black Bay, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, this this just acquired a new piece if he wants to share with us at some point. But yeah, that's, I think the Black Bay is just fine as it is. I know people love criticizing Tudor, especially over the Black Bay. But I like it, honestly. Black Bay in Black, Black Bay 58 in black. That's the modern interpretation of the Big Crown. That's like a modern version of 6538, and I think it's a wonderful piece, and it can have a place in any collection. Honestly, I mean, I have, I'll put it like this, in many ways, and I don't say this, you know, to pump myself up, but in 5513, I have just the perfect sub, if you ask me. I don't need another no-date sub. On the other hand, when I look at the Black Bay 58 line, whether it's this one or even the blue at a certain point in time, but most recently, especially the bronze, because it has that 369 dial configuration. Bronze is an interesting material to experiment with. I changed my mind entirely about it in recent times. Made a complete U-turn about it. And I just adore this watch. And ever since I have seen it in person in the Tudor boutique in Westfield Century City, I have been losing sleep over it. And it's a lovely watch. I love the Explorer dial on it. I just love the color scheme, the dial itself, that gradient composition of it is beautiful. The strap feels great. The fact that it's a full bracelet with the new T-fit configuration, the T-fit clasp, That's not a bad thing either. I love it. I absolutely adore it. For me, the Black Bay 58 is really a gift from Rolex gods, um, and the world is richer for it. Joy Spinelli says Black Bay is great, but a reissued Tudor sub would be awesome. Um, Again, I think to me, Joy, it only makes sense as a very limited and targeted release. You know, maybe a true limited edition of a Tudor sub reissue would make sense, but anything in regular production, it just seems like something that takes away from Rolex, something that impinges on Rolex's realm, um, because Tudor is, um, yeah, Tudor after all is there for, it's Rolex's shield, right? It's there for serving Rolex. It can't be taking away from Rolex. And I think for them to make a sub, even as much as just changing the hands into something that's more recognizably Rolex in our time, that would be that would not be good for Rolex. Remember, I mean, Tudor, when it was making subs, had a different purpose within the Rolex umbrella. Uh, it was basically a way of making good use of everything that they couldn't use, everything they had in excess, the cases, the bracelets, the crowns, everything, even the dials, right? Um, they would just put an ETA movement, a cheaper movement in it, and use it as an entry level watch that would not take away from the Rolex brand. And now Tudor, day by day, carves out its own identity, carves out its own niche, um, and that's overlapping with Rolex. That has a lot to do with uh, protecting Rolex's heritage, reinterpreting it for the day, experimenting with things that Rolex doesn't want to take risks with. But at this point in time, I don't think they will do a sub. If they do, I think it will be, and it has to be, a very limited release, a very limited edition. And I think that would just, at any rate, that would probably anger more people than appease them. So even that already sounds, yeah, starts sounding like a bad decision to me. But hey, maybe they will. Maybe they will surprise all of us and will make some of you very happy. And this, we like mythological language in this, um, on this channel. Um, and you brought some of the best in the past by saying that you were at one point in time flying too close to the sun. So I'm sure you understand best when I say, yeah, this has been a gift from the Rolex gods. The mythology is important, the narrative is important, the stories that surround these watches is all important. And my friend, wear that Black Bay 58 in good health and wealth. I think it's a great watch for you. I know you were looking for that vibe of the no date sub, and this will provide it in spades. And it will actually, I feel it will give perhaps something more. And you tell me how you enjoy it. HK says, did you see how the BB58 925 went down significantly on the gray market? In the beginning, it was about 65, 6.5 to 7, and now it's about 3.5 to 4. Thoughts? This is what I will say. the from the Black Bay 58 line or from Tudor in general, um, I would never pay premium to buy Tudor on the secondary market, right? I don't pay premium period for anything, but when it comes to Tudor, look, I know that some of the models, especially upon release, can become very desirable and can turn into allocation pieces. But nowadays, there are the boutiques, and they get a lot of supply. Um, there are only three I know. They're only in Los Angeles, Orlando, and New York. But if you live close enough to any one of them, they can get you these watches pretty easily. So, unless you are getting a good deal in the secondary market, uh, unless you are getting knocked off 20-25% off retail, you can get these pieces. You should be able to get them from your usual AD, and even there with the discount. Worst case scenario, you can get them at one of the boutiques, um, which will be increasing in number, as I heard in the recent past. At the boutiques, you can buy them at list price. And in certain cases, like this just did, you can find them at a discount on the secondary market if you wait long enough, if you remain patient long enough. The only one that's absolutely worth going directly to the boutique to get is the bronze. Since that's a boutique edition, um, it's not available elsewhere. And on the secondary market, it usually comes with a markup. If it doesn't, it already has someone else's patina on it. And this is one watch where that could and would matter unless you know how to properly clean bronze, how to properly take care of it. Same thing with silver, probably. On the secondary markets, for three and a half, are you getting a clean example that's practically unworn? Or is it something that already has some wear and tear and patina developing? All right. We're past midnight, so this is the last question I will answer from Joyce Spinelli with the ever-changing avatar. What do I think of the Tudor root beer? I don't like it much, actually. Um, I don't like two-tone Tudor watches. In this case, as far as I know, the bezel is gold, the crown is gold, um, everything else is rolled. So I don't know. I don't know. There's something about Tudor's execution of two-tone that irritates me a little. The GMTs are a little too big, but even the 41 millimeter Tudor case is very wearable, even if you have small wrists like me. Um, but yeah, I've not warmed up to Tudor GMTs to begin with in the same way I did to Black Bay 58, and in the same way I did to Black Bay Pro, which is an amazing watch. I had the opportunity to look at it in the boutique, but more importantly, to wear it with um, and Alex went to pick it up, and that is what I'm gonna say. That's the honestly for me. That's the Tudor GMT watch to buy, the Black Bay Pro. Yeah, it's an absolutely gorgeous watch. No reach arounds with the bronze. I don't know what you mean with that, MLMJ, but thank you for the information. And this says, I don't like root beer in general. I don't like the modern root beer, but I love my 1982 Clint Eastwood. Love it. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Please upvote on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Spread the word. Share the link with others. It really helps. Help me get to that first major goal of 1,000 subs. That's the best thing you can do for this channel. But in the meantime, if you want to contribute, the information is in the crawling ticker. It is in the description. I have just posted the links as well. So any contribution is more than welcome. I will see you tomorrow at the same time, hopefully a little earlier, actually. Joy with the changing avatar. The root beer is a fantastic watch. I love the vintage version. The modern one is great too, but Tudor's version, I'm just not, I'm not into it. Guys, yes, if you do want to contribute, the links are there. Anything is welcome, but I really thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this platform, completely independent, completely autonomous, not beholden to any industry interest, not beholden to the gray market. It's wonderful to be with you. This is your platform. This is your favorite live favorite live streamer checking out Lord Hellespont V, live from Los Angeles. Until tomorrow, guys.